I'm Isaac, and welcome to Stuff You Need to Know About Australian History. Today's episode is going to focus on the Depression. We're not going to discuss the causes of the Depression because, number one, historians don't agree on what caused it. Number two, they do mostly agree that it started in America, a place notable for, amongst other things, not being Australia. Instead, we'll discuss the consequences of the Depression for everyday Australians and the nation's leaders. The Great Depression started in 1930 and was disastrous for Australia. Before the start of the Depression, the Australian unemployment rate was already high at 10%. In 1930, it jumped to 21% before peaking in 1932, when nearly 1 in 3 Australians were unemployed. Many lost their livelihoods, families broke down, children were forced to leave school in their early teens, many starved, and many took their own lives. This was all particularly bad for women, many of whom were forced into domestic service for other families to support their own. It never occurred to their patriarchal husbands, however, that they might like some assistance with the housework, so the full burden of taking care of their families fell to them. Oral historian Wendy Lowenstein recalled in 1998, "People were forced into all sorts of tricks and expediencies to survive, all sorts of shabby and humiliating compromises. In thousands and thousands of homes, fathers deserted the family and went on the track, or perhaps took to drink. People maintained their hope by latching on to national heroes." During the Depression, Australians found enjoyment in their nation's sporting successes. In 1930, Donald Bradman broke the world record for the number of runs in a cricket match. Another national hero was the horse so amazing he had a last name, Farlap. Farlap won the Melbourne Cup in 1930 before winning Agua Saliente Handicap, in Mexico in 1932. Farlap was so famous that an assassination attempt was made on him, and when he did die, many suspected foul play. That's right, Australians were that unhealthily obsessed with sport. Maybe it's time to move on and find our pride in something else like our art or literature or history. The federal Labor government of James Scullin, which was only a fortnight old at the start of the Depression, did try to expand government spending to ease unemployment, an approach favoured particularly strongly by Treasurer Ted Theodore. However, the Senate was controlled by the Nationalist Country Coalition and persistently rejected Scullin and Theodore's measures. Things went from bad to worse for the government when Theodore had to resign due to allegations of corruption. These were, in fact, untrue, but never mind. When Theodore was eventually reinstated, some of the more conservative Labor members, led by Joe Lyons, split from the ALP and merged with the Nationalists to form the United Australia Party. With little chance of success with an expansionary approach, Scullin tried to focus on repaying Australia's foreign debt. Most of the state premiers agreed to save money by reducing welfare payments. However, New South Wales Labor Premier Jack Lang refused, believing that the primary cause of Australia's economic misery was the interest on its debts to the United Kingdom from the First World War, claiming that the Bank of England was dragging this country down. In March 1931, Lang discontinued payments of interest on New South Wales foreign debt. Lang's actions soured his state's relations with the federal government, which worsened when the United Australia Country Coalition came to power under Joe Lyons in 1932. The Commonwealth then began forcibly taking the New South Wales government's income tax revenue to cover the payments on the state's debts, which, surprise, surprise, Lang didn't like very much. He resisted this move by ordering the police to guard Treasury at Martin Place. Having warned Lang about the illegality of these measures, Governor Philip Gaines sacked him on 13th of May, the first of only 2 dismissals of Australian governments in history. Labor was defeated at the subsequent June election. The Lyons coalition government maintained its opposition to increased government spending. There was no Australian New Deal, so the Australian economy recovered much more slowly than that of many other nations, including the United States and the United Kingdom. Another important aspect of the time, particularly in hindsight, was the oncoming war. With Australian politicians, like their British counterparts, there were appeasers and those who favoured more strong assertion against the militarism of Germany and Japan. Amongst the appeasers were Joe Lyons and Attorney General and future Prime Minister Bob Menzies. Menzies famously forced workers who were striking over Japanese militarism to load pig iron for export to Japan. This worked out really badly for Australians, who ended up at war with Japan, and even worse for Menzies, who ended up with the nickname Pig Iron Bob. Amongst those opposed to appeasement was Labor politician and future wartime Prime Minister John Curtin, who was certain war with Japan was imminent. Additionally, when he was asked about Germany, Foreign Affairs Minister Billy Hughes, who had been Prime Minister during the First World War, responded by saying,
I'm only the Minister for External Affairs, so I'm not allowed to say anything. So, therefore, I cannot comment. I will, of course, say that if you paved the way to Broken Hill with Bibles, and that man, Hitler, swore an oath on every one of them, I would not believe a goddamn word he said.
Obviously, war did break out, and there'll be more on that next time. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you then.